Welcome to Empowerment Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Friedemann. And, well, how have you felt lately? Have you, just like most of us, felt stressed out? Or have you felt somehow distracted by the news? Now, speaking about the news, I have to say, usually I try to avoid watching most of it. But when I saw Notre Dame in Paris burning, that was a big stab to my heart. Me and my wife have spent a lot of time at Notre Dame, and it's just one of the most sacred places in the world. And when I saw these towers just engulfed by flames, something internally really made me tear up. I just felt like a friend was in trouble. But what made me even more moved was when I saw all these people gathering around and chanting and serenading this amazing church. And then they were forming these chains of people protecting those treasures that were carried out to save them. I just thought it was a wonderful display of how much this place, whether we are Christian or believers or anything, doesn't matter. There's something that touches us about a place like this that has been withstanding so much. French Revolution, World War II, and now this fire. So it stressed me out a little bit, I have to admit, and it really touched me deeply. And it was nice to see that everyone I talked to, and even people that talked on TV about it, really felt something inside of them was resonating or was hurting because of that. Now, considering that our world is full of news and full of just, seems like a little bit trials and tribulations, ups and downs, many people feel stressed, anxious, and afraid, and many people are looking for solutions. And one of the solutions that has been coming up into the forefront of myself as well was meditation. Now, I have been trying to meditate about 35 years ago and failed miserably. I thought, well, let's do it in the bathtub. That's really nice. And usually two things happened. One is that I got really frustrated because I couldn't shut my mind off. And then after 10 minutes, I fell asleep and almost drowned. And so at some point, I just gave up and felt like, meditation is not for me. So it took me 10 more years to finally go back to meditation. And this was through yoga, and especially Kundalini yoga. And then I learned also a more Buddhist form of meditation when I joined the Shambhala Center in Seattle. And so I gradually understood more that meditation is something that is not a light switch. It is really something that is, in some ways, a gentle training of your mind. It just allows your mind to act out. It allows your mind to clean house. It allows your mind eventually to settle down and relax. And it doesn't happen with the first time, at least not for me. It took me about 6 months to finally enjoy meditation. Before that, it was a little hard to just always bring your mind back. Now, there is a specific form of meditation, which is mindfulness, that has been really very popular. It has been written about, published. There has been research done with that showed the benefits of that form of meditation, benefits on lowering blood pressure, stimulating the immune system, you name it. Also, when it comes to emotional challenges, this form of mindfulness has been extremely helpful. But what is actually mindfulness? And I was always really just stamping it up as, well, this is when you sit and you watch your breath and you watch your thoughts, and then they float away, and then you bring it back. And so I was a little bit maybe nonchalant about it and didn't really see that mindfulness is a whole way of living. And it reminded me of a teacher in Shambhala who said the best meditations he has is when he does the dishes, because he simply integrates the meditative way of being into his daily life. And now, how do we do this? And what are the principles? And is this something that is actually even more desirable than sitting 15 minutes on the pillow and shutting everything off and then going back into your hectic lifestyle? Can meditation be an everyday foundation for your life And that is what we talk about today with my very dear guest and expert, Keith oh my goodness, Keith say it again, Keith, please help me out.
Macpherson.
Macpherson. Macpherson. Aye. Well, he wrote the book Making Sense of Mindfulness. Now, Keith is a very interesting person in himself, not only the author of a fascinating book that I can highly recommend, but he has a whole story behind him because he is an artist, a musician, has traveled the world, and has also been struggling with his own emotions and found mindfulness as one way to reconnect to himself. So we're going to go on to an exciting journey with Keith. So thank you so much, Keith, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me here, Friedemann. I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
Well, Keith, I mean, I have to say your life has been quite interesting. So you have been a musician, and I think that was like your original passion. Is that right?
It was. I actually, when I was a kid, knew, like about 5 years old, I knew that I wanted to just play guitar and entertain audiences all around the world. Well, all my friends were playing with Tonka trucks and, things kids do. I would stand on my parents' kitchen table and I had a fake Fisher-Price guitar and just used to pretend I was putting on concerts. So I knew from a very early age that was what I wanted to pursue in the beginning.
But see, I had that dream too. We had even a band which were called, when we were 10 years old, the Hot Babies. And we did exactly the same thing, Fisher-Price guitar, we did lip syncing. But unfortunately, we never got any further than that. So there must be more inside of you that kept you going.
Yeah, well, definitely. It just one thing led to the next. And, this journey for me really got serious in the 7th grade because I was failing French class. I'm from Canada, and in Canada, we study French at school. And it was my worst subject, to say the least. I was failing. And I went one day after school to my French teacher, and I asked if I could do an extra project to get my grade up. And my teacher was kind enough to give me an extra assignment. So I went home that night, and I'd been practicing guitar. My mom had this old guitar around at our house. And that particular night, as I was practicing, it dawned on me that I could translate an old Bob Dylan song into French and record it on a cassette tape, if you remember those back in the day. And I handed it in, and my teacher gave me an A+ on the assignment, which got my mark in French up to a D-, which was fantastic. And it was a pivotal moment because she came back and said, "Do you want to sing this song in front of the school?" And I don't know about you, Friedemann, but the last thing I wanted to do in the 7th grade was get up and sing in front of my entire school population. My voice was cracking. I had an awkward crush on Stephanie, but there was something in me that just knew this was the time to do it. So I got up, I started playing my song in front of the school in the gym one day. They all piled in, and my worst nightmare came true. I started playing, and all my friends, all my classmates started making fun of me and laughing. And before too long, the whole school was in chaos. And I remember this moment clearly as I was standing up there trying to get through this song. That was really one of the first times that I noticed in my head that this voice came up that was just screaming at me, "Run for the hills. Like, this was such a bad idea. You're failing. This isn't going well." And despite all that, in the middle of it all, I was reminded of another song that I just learned. And it was a children's song called "The Cat Came Back." And I broke into that in the middle of this total nightmare. And before too long, the entire school, the energy in the gym shifted, and everyone in the gym started singing with me. And I remember looking out and seeing that and thinking, this is so powerful. Like, I could do this for the rest of my life. And little did I know, when I look back now, and we're talking about mindfulness, and what does this have to do with meditation, mindfulness? I look back now, and this was actually my entryway into it, because what I've come to find as a musician is that when a good song comes on and everybody starts singing, it's a universal language, and there's something under the surface that reminds us that we are all connected. And it doesn't matter where you come from, what the color of your skin is, where you were raised, dare I say political party in North America. It's like underneath the surface, we are all connected. And I think that's really what's drawn me into this life purpose of music, and now doing a lot more speaking and teaching and leading the mindfulness work. So it's been quite a journey, as you say.
Well,
For
that
sure.
is very interesting. First of all, my first girlfriend was also Stephanie, so here's another parallel. But
Wow.
I'm not
That's
sure if
so
you
right.
actually made it with Stephanie or not, or if it just remained on the crush. But
Yeah.
what I find so fascinating is because you were very successful as a musician. You actually made it to Canadian Idol, and you were one of the last ones standing. And you had also a career as a musician, traveling. And but what you write is that this was also a time of loneliness, and that you really
Yes.
felt that maybe all this glamour and all this wonderful lifestyle that it's supposed to be may not have exactly panned out like this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, two things happened. I finished Idol, and I made it down to. Oh,
Go ahead, keep
I
on
made it down. Yeah, I made it down to the top 10 on Canadian Idol, and it was that week that I got, they call it, eliminated from the show, and I realized that it wasn't all it was cracked up to be. There was a lot of ego, and when I say ego, it was just this feeling of like always needing to be more, get the approval. It was I went through a real depression in that time. I was like, there's something that's just not working right, and what's up here? And right around that time, I was also playing in a band, and we were traveling along the east coast of North America on tour. And it was right around the time when the music industry was changing, where people were no longer buying CDs, and the invention of Apple Music and Spotify were emerging. And so, I mean, we were playing for next to nothing and just really struggling on the road. And I remember myself just feeling like the question mark of like, why am I even doing this? Like, this is so hard and excruciatingly painful. And I feel like I'm going through the motions of my daily life on tour, playing a show for like 3 people in a club, and then driving all day to the next club to make like $5. And it was really unfulfilling. And I think where the moment happened for me, that kind of the turning point, was my mom had actually given me a CD when they still existed. And she said, I want you to listen to the CD when you're on tour in your rental car. And I'm looking behind you, and I can see a book from Dr. Wayne Dyer. Good choice. And it was a Wayne Dyer CD. It was a lecture CD of Wayne. It was his Power of Intention CD. And I remember just on a whim one day on that tour, putting the CD on in the car and going, okay, I'll give it a shot. This is my last hope. And Wayne started talking about the power of intention and just this whole mindset of, you are what you think about. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And it was like a light bulb went on. And the rest of that tour, just something energetically shifted. I remember showing up at the next show, and it was a full house, and we weren't expecting it. We were expecting another 3 people, and just the right people started coming in. And it was like this kind of feeling of, there is some magic going on here. And I'm not sure exactly what it is, but whatever this CD is doing, and this guy named Wayne Dyer, there is something that's very powerful about this process. So I think that's when things shifted for me. But to say the least, it was a struggle, especially that transition from thinking I'm going to be a musician the rest of my life to going like, this is not working and something's got to change. And going through that, it was quite a challenge.
This is actually the power of intention that you see behind me. And the power of intention was also incredibly important on my journey. And so, yeah, I this is just, something when you listen to Wayne's word, then you actually really feel like, yeah, something is shifting in your thinking and in your belief system. And it's very empowering and very freeing. And we'll talk more about this after the break.